Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Adrian?
Fine. I got a little bit shocked when I was hearing your keyboard in the microphone. It sounds a little bit like bam, 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 bam. It's a sound of violence, actually. And
You don't like
I was in the
mechanical
music
keyboards?
flow of this lo-fi soundtrack.
Yeah, the lo-fi soundtrack. The lo-fi soundtrack is really good. And also,
Oh.
they updated Restream again, so our studio changed slightly.
Yeah, it seems to work better now.
I hope so. I hope so, because we were getting booted out and restarted every 30 minutes last time. So
How do you like the new image? I'm not red anymore in the stream, in the output.
very nice.
I finally managed to not get red because in the WebRTC signal of the Camlink I use from Elgato with my Sony,
The
it
white
actually
balance
gets
is off. Yeah.
yeah, but not in the preview. And the preview is like the actual thing is,
You
and
don't
I
see
managed
yourself.
it via an OBS virtual cam and a specific white balance. It's complicated, but finally.
Very nice. Very nice. So today, I suggested we talk about the event I had last week. So last Wednesday we didn't have an episode because I was having a seminar, workshop, event. I had like 20, 30 people on 20, 30 people who are the perfect audience for our tech journey, but with local tech
Who of them
people.
is there today?
I don't know, but it was interesting enough. It was very busy, so it definitely struck a chord with everybody. Oh, and the topic, of course, was product engineering, like the divide, the department stuff, the leadership issues, the soft problems rather than the framework problems.
The soft problems, which actually become very hard problems sometimes.
Yes, the soft but difficult problems, rather than the technical, tactical stuff. One of the things I see this in your Stoic leadership work as well, is that one thing that comes up a lot in these seminars is people sort of probing as in they surface their problems they're having by trying to figure out if they're using the wrong framework. Right? If they're, should be use Scrumban instead of whatever they're using, or, do we still do sprints, or should it be 1 week or 2 weeks? So it's their question is very tactical, very, very much sort of framework oriented. Most people like use this as like a conversation starter, as like an icebreaker. But really beneath the surface, it's trust issues, leadership issues, relationship issues between key people, managerial processes, suppressing actual genuine leadership, or there being misaligned incentives, or the typical one, which is different teams prioritizing different values, and then whoever is in the middle gets to suffer and shares the pain, basically, in that environment. And it has nothing to do with methodologies. It has nothing to do with frameworks. It has nothing to do with Scrum. It has nothing to do with your Jira setup, although it probably hurts more than it benefits you. And ultimately, it comes down to how good your relationships are with your peers, with your manager, what you're doing to improve them, and then what process you are building around that relationship to make it stronger, to leverage it. From what I saw in the seminar is that most people wanted to do the other way around. It's like, what process do I impose on my team so I don't have to deal with the people I have problems with? Yeah.
So what can I do to become less of a team lead and more of an engineer again, while keeping the salary and the position? I had that actually.
Yeah, it's like, how can I manage the problems without having to deal with them, right? Like more coming from that perspective.
I think I have recorded a YouTube video yesterday, and the raw cut is done already about exactly that topic. Interestingly, and we had that topic quite often already, because it is, in fact, as soon as you get from the typical head of IT mentoring thing into team mentoring, right? Or team fellow coaching, whatever you do there, you almost always get to the point where you actually need to start to get the people together, which
Yeah.
means that you need to get the team lead into the position where he or she understands that's actually leadership position. So you are responsible. The first thing you should think of in the morning is the team. It is not the code. It's not your IDE. It's not these kind of things. Other people are now responsible. And I think one of the reasons is that many tech leads, especially team leads, are actually promoted internally and were the best engineers in town during the time of, it's like, it's cheaper. It is like that. It is cheaper to promote a person
Sadly, yes.
than to actually hire someone who does have already leadership experience.
Yeah.
That would be okay with cheaper stuff if you would provide proper teaching, proper mentoring in order to get that person to the level of, okay, let's build up actively leadership skills. But I would be interested in what was, so first of all, what was the problem space on the event regarding this? And what were the solutions you mentioned? It's not about our YouTube video.
Most of the problem spaces, like the questions that we were getting from the audience, were process related.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so process related as in, hey, theory of constraints or agile, or, they seem to be really interested in when I talked about leading indicators rather than just lagging ones. Most organizations only use lagging indicators. Leading indicators is what you get if you do continuous delivery, because not having delivered continuously today and us not aiming to deliver continuously by end of day, that is a leading indicator that we will definitely be late on the project. if I know that nobody is prioritizing getting feedback sooner, then we will definitely be late, regardless of what we said. That was interesting. There were a lot of questions regarding, hey, CPO, CTO, PM, and undermining, right? CEO is unhappy with progress, comes in, micromanages or overrules what to do in that situation. How do we handle, that sort of overreach?
Who's overruling whom?
It was different examples from different people, but it was generally this triad. The triad was generally PM, CPO, CTO, or PM, CPO, CEO. So those three came up often. And I think everybody was sort of keeping their own role anonymous, and they just wanted to see it from all directions.
So we're not talking about enterprise level. We talk still about SMB, because
SMB is probably accurate, less than 100 total employees.
Because the CTO wouldn't be present in a large enterprise for a team.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
That, and also the event was also titled, debug the divide, like what to do when product and engineering sort of divorce, and then they have like this like weird handoff relationship.
The engineering department, they do engineering there, whatever that is, and it, just produce features.
It's like just a bunch of tubes and cables and
exactly. And we all hope that soon AI jumps in and actually replaces them all, because they
different tubes and different cables.
And the CTO robots can do all the work.
CEO can vibe code the whole product, of course.
Yeah.
Like the customers can just vibe code their own product with OpenClaw.
They have it ready, and then they send you the lovable link.
Of course,
that's
of course. But they are using your Cloud Code key for enterprise, so you are billing them extra as a tenant and making margin on top. Of course, Adrian, you're living under a rock. This is the new SaaS, I'm telling you. So everybody wanted to know what to do, right? It's like, okay, departments are divided. How do we get them back together? That was a solid half of the discussions, was basically that, of people basically expressing their own version of hell, of yes, I've seen this, I hate it, and then what to do about it or how to prevent it. The sort of more advanced audience was really interested in knowing like how to prevent it, how to nurture, because it's unlikely that you're always on one extreme. You're probably just seesawing in the middle. of maybe there is more division now, less division, more division, less division. The division is different across a certain vertical or product line or location if you have, a mix of remote and on-site. These things all happen.
How was it regarding the ownership aspect? Because the divide often happens that you communicate via tickets, you communicate via some form of communication platform where you manifest the actual work. And that is an ownership issue because as soon as you do something like that, you take away a lot of ownership, especially regarding the product aspects itself. How was that addressed? Well, I'm very interested about that one.
Not so concrete. I mean, you and I can talk about it now.
Because that is one of the main
concerns. The way, I had to scope it down. It was we only had like a few hours. So I specifically scoped it down to talk about the version of this problem where the divide happens, like it manifests in most organizations, in most small organizations, that product takes on a sort of non-IC managerial role, so that they don't own execution on any of the tickets. They own the management of the tickets, the planning of them, and then the people who plan, they don't execute, and the people who execute, they don't plan. And then they have this weird handoff loop with each other, right? Like that is the most common, most derisive, most divisive, annoying, sticky version of this issue, where because product engineering is easy if you're a product person and an engineer, and you're having this conversation with your team where everybody is aware of this, and it's basically just a team of engineers who are very product savvy. This is what Brian Friendster is talking about all the time. It's like you have engineers, okay, go learn about the product. You have product people who want to have a say in engineering, okay, go learn engineering, right? It's like that's the standard, like that's the minimum, right? Like we can't do good engineering unless you understand the product, and you can't plan engineering.
This is how we started 20, 30 years ago when SMBs were starting to actually use software engineering to enhance businesses. So you had a person who was somehow dedicated. It was very often back then one engineer, which wasn't called engineer back then. It was the programmer.
It's an IT person, yeah.
The IT person, the programmer guy.
Like IT technician.
Exactly, the nerdy guy, these kind of things, the strange guy who can do these kind of things. But this person was always involved into business. That was one of the aspects. And I was like starting like that, and it felt very natural to actually contribute to the business. You were with all clients. The clients were calling you directly. You were implementing directly with the clients. There was nothing in between you and the client. And somehow later on, they put entire organizations in between that. And the client was so far away. Okay, I understand that in a SaaS aspect, if you are working on an extremely large SaaS product, I can understand that better. But especially in the smaller companies where it really matters, I don't understand it at all, that engineers are actually divided artificially away from that one. There are several reasons, in my opinion. One reason is the saddest one is exchangeability, which means that business oftentimes try to artificially create an environment where software engineers can be exchanged against others, against freelancers, against agency, or these days a little bit the futile approach with AI. But people try. That's one of the, they really try to do that. And
it's purely resource management.
It is resource management.
It's not product management. It is there to basically make HR decisions simpler.
You try to cultivate a development culture which is based on we are getting a lot of cheap people. We're getting a lot of people without proper training. We hire. That was the starting with the bootcamp era where we try to get people with 3 months of education into a mid-level role and try to skip stages, and that all
That's
fell apart
interesting,
because
yeah, that
you didn't
yeah.
have this apprenticeship idea of this, or mentoring idea of the seniors are mentoring the juniors, making them good mid-level, and they make the extra work. The seniors are the cornerstones. Suddenly everyone was senior, but
Mhm,
no one was senior at all. And
mhm.
and the seniors burned out, the actual seniors who became brands, and suddenly the seniors became team leads. But they actually never wanted to be team leads. They wanted to be good seniors, engineers. And I think we have a lot of artificial dilution because of exactly those business decisions. That is what I see very often.
It's interesting to see the bootcamp era because they almost disappeared. Like they don't make sense anymore from like an economical perspective.
It did not work out for most of them.
Yeah.
And for the companies who actually hired people then, because there were some, and some were lucky to actually got proper junior positions
Hmm.
in, or let's say pre-junior positions in companies which had programs for that. In Germany, there are, especially enterprises have programs which then helps especially these kind of people to get and have a career plan
Hmm.
and these kind of things,
Hmm.
and have specific mentors, people who only doing that as a form of apprenticeship, if you like. But if you are expected to,
Internship sort of.
it's an intern, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's like that. But if you are expected to already perform like the boot camps promised, you were basically doomed to fail. It
So
doesn't
it's
work. It's the reality.
I think that I mean there isn't any kind of no, that's not true. Branding wise, to brand yourself as an engineer, what seems to be working is the various X Meta, X Fang labeling of I used to work at a large big tech company. So what works as a sort of stamping of achievement or accomplishment or ability is basically medals. Is medals of having been deployed in the field, having solved something, or at least to have survived the interview process in a meticulously large, complicated hiring machine, and survived enough, for like a few quarters, a year, a few years.
But that
That is
dilutes
a
as
good
well.
guarantee, but that is only reserved for people in the US and people who are senior or beyond.
But I don't
We
see
don't.
that often anymore. The taglines like three
I
times
agree. I'm
bang
not saying.
bang.
I'm not calling it out as a staple of frequency or even standard, but if you see it, that one is organically received. It's usually not questioned too much. Whereas if you give me a LinkedIn certificate of having done MongoDB, that's like I dismiss that. I just don't even. Or if you show me your GitHub profile and it has a lot of green
I have a
boxes,
Descript
nah.
expert I'm a video editor now. You can hire me.
Right, so there's a lot of certificates that we dismiss. For example, back in the day, I had a PHP Zen certificate. I thought that was really important. Didn't seem important to me. Felt cool to do the certification for my employer, but nobody ever looked at it. No future employer
We
ever looked
still
at it.
have an old legacy application which is not updated anymore. On some Windows server running on PHP with the Zen framework 1.2.
1.2,
So
the golden age.
we could need your help.
The golden age. I am certified for that version.
That is.
It was almost like 15 years ago, but yeah, still am. No, but my point is, university degrees, certifications, they all sort of fail to uniformly across the industry communicate somebody's ability to perform at a senior level. We don't have a good, like, that seems to be what we're looking for. Proof of performing on a senior level, proof of performing on a good engineering management level, proof of performing on a good staff engineer level. That's what companies are looking for. And we don't have a good uniform way of verifying that. So everybody's just winging it in the interview process. They're just trying to find the most the most radical, time-efficient way of checking for somebody's ability, even despite all of the AI craze and sort of AI usage in the interview process, from getting, verbatim speaking from what the AI is dictating to using AI to solve the problem off screen, or things like that.
We don't even have a unified way of describing what the senior actually is. So the best posts I had in the recent or like last year's were actually about help to explain what a junior is, what a mid-level is, what a senior is. Junior, okay, that was easy to explain, right? But a senior is a little bit like when and people try to say, my company tells me I'm a senior with 3 years of experience. You are not the cornerstone, you are still learning, but somehow you got senior by pay grade. Okay, but is that a senior per se? Is it agnostic version of it or not? It is very hard to explain because even the large companies share similar but not same systems of rating that. And you have then in the career ladder things like the senior engineer and suddenly the staff engineer, which is actually a senior as well with a different role. And it's a little bit like, I'm a senior, I'm a staff engineer, but what's the difference? Is there a difference? That's complicated.
There is, but it's complicated. Yes, the devil's in the details, and it's different in every organization. Some staff engineers are managerial. Some staff engineers are extremely IC and solo.
Mm-hmm.
Some staff engineers are extremely IC and a sort of amplifier across two teams, like they are gluing two teams together.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it was interesting for me to bring this up, this sort of senior, it's like this sort of talent issue, in this sort of product to engineering division, because not a good description by any means, but as a good litmus test, as a good test to see if somebody could be senior, somebody could reliably be sort of beholden to the senior level, is their ability to navigate a divided engineering and product setup well. So that's where I was sort of most looking for, because if that is the most common dysfunction, then a senior engineer is somebody who knows how to navigate and possibly even solve and overcome the most common dysfunction, right? So a senior engineer to me, or rather, again, not to be descriptive or prescriptive, but rather a good test for me for somebody to show a lot of potential to be a senior engineer, is this ability to just work well and communicate well across a divided, prioritization structure or ownership structure or accountability structure where there's maybe too many people involved or it's not quite clear, and they know how to, get the right pull. They know how to pull at the correct strings, at the correct levers to bring the right people together to solve the outcome for a customer, right? That to me would be senior behavior. Now, if you're in a perfect environment, if you're in an extreme programming company where usually the product and engineering side are not divided, I wouldn't be able to test this, but then I also wouldn't be having this problem, and it would be a more natural sort of stepping stone for somebody to sort of grow into this role, because they wouldn't have to do well despite the dysfunction, but they could just function well and they want and just save a few years of their growth pains as an engineer. That's why I brought it up, because for better or for worse, that seems to be what we are filtering for in hiring processes, of how the behavioral interviews are usually solving for, okay, if you get told something stupid, or if you're being micromanaged, or if a customer gives you a stupid ask, how do you solve that? Like, do you check in? Do you ask for the why? Do you try to understand? So we are directly or indirectly looking for this ability, but we don't seem to be emphasizing it enough beyond the interview process. And that's really interesting. Like that's what I notice as a coach of, hey, in the interview process, we bring it up, but then when I see a sprint planning, you guys don't talk about the why. Like if somebody asks why you shout at each other, it's like, no, I'm waiting for this for 2 weeks now. You told me to do it now when it's done. Then that's where the pain starts. That's where the pain manifests and proliferates across the entire organization if you don't deal with it.
I think this is the reason why I not drifted, but I switched my focus so much on the self-control aspects of teams as well, because there is a tendency that engineers are isolated, and when they get into conversations, team meetings, something like that, they try to stand their ground as individuals, not as a team. So that because of the absence of good team leadership, so there is no one facilitating that. The team lead is most often a ex-senior of that team, try to be still the senior of the team. So it's like acting just like everyone else. And you very often have one or two alphas who share the people. So, you have more like a feudalism instead of actual team leadership. There are some stronger, others follow. Yeah. And that is one of the things I try to focus on. And the focus there is actually to improve the individual, and of course the sense of actually we are a team, unified thing, but self-control, which leads eventually to ownership, and make sure that team and management gives you enough room for that. Because often the room is lacking because there is a reason nothing changes. That's a management problem, that you don't have enough resources. You need more time to actually get the work done. There is more pressure coming from above. Get the tickets done. You need to get the features out. Very driven like that. And expectations, like every one of you need to improve. This is the written down plan. This is the expectation for each and every one of you.
Yes.
And each and every one of the people don't really know what to do with that, because they had basically never heard those terms, and they shall improve in this, this, and this. But there is no one helping them to understand that, while they're actually constantly under fire. And then they get into a meeting, and of course, it is more like a survival training what they do there. They try to stand their ground, to not,
they
be one of the
justify their actions rather than trying to learn from them.
And that starts, of course, from bottom up, the self-control. We need to stand as a team and communicate this upwards, and the team lead needs to be improved, that they actually start to shield the team and step away from the actual engineering and say, I support your engineering as an experienced engineer, but I'm not engineering directly anymore. It's your turn now. Take the ownership. I shield you, right?
Yes.
But that's actually very hard. It's easier said than done.
It's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah. And that's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, go. You go.
No, it's the team lead who is daring to do that. That's a virtuous thing to do, right?
Or even higher. Even a smaller organization, maybe it has to be the CTO or the CEO.
Yeah, but the team lead needs to start. If the CTO wasn't doing something...
No, but it's like...
Right?
But it's harder, it's... In my experience, at least. I mean, I'm biased, of course, because I'm working with these companies who self-identify as seeking help. So they have...
They are one step ahead of everyone else.
Potentially, yes. So when you're one step ahead, you already have this problem of the CTO or somebody who is in charge, somebody very high up, possibly a co-founder or one of the core group of people who grew the company. They know how to solve every problem, but they don't have the time to solve every problem. So by wanting to solve every problem and working under time pressure or market pressure or financial pressure, they want to be involved with every problem, but then they just delegate the execution of the problem rather than the entire problem. And just as their time is limited for execution, their time is also limited for learning. So if they make all the decisions and then delegate the execution, which usually happens in these sort of scatter, gather, command and divide and conquer, command and control setups, where you use Jira, you plan Jira, and then you assign feature factory behavior, basically. You assign everything individual, and you have engineers work and report back, is that the learning is expected to be done by the person who did the most decisions. But that means that the learning person's time management has to match the execution flow, because the amount of learning is relative to the rate of execution. So if you delegated the execution because you didn't have enough time to do it yourself, you also don't have enough time to learn everything. Which means that you're not only robbing your team, you as a CEO or very like too senior person, like too close to the business, you're robbing not only are you robbing your team of learning opportunities, but you're actually destroying them. You're destroying the data. By being unable to act on it, the data is produced and then ignored. Or it's just there. Yeah, we released it. We made a large release. We acted on 2 things, but then the other 8 we could never get to. They're just there in some triage queue, or we made a ticket for it for later, but we didn't get to it, right? So it's worse than just robbing them of the learning opportunity. You're also destroying the opportunity. Nobody will learn from that, because when we go back and learn from it, it'll be too late. That is one of the sort of hallmark dysfunctions of such an organization, is that you, who is under pressure to deliver and know how to do it, you have to willingly say, no, I know we can, but they need to learn how to do it. They need to go through the pain, they need to do the learning, and they need to make decisions, and I need to help them make decisions fast and in a safe way and actually learn from it. And I need to help them hold themselves accountable to learning, so that they don't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
You're talking about the CTO to the engineers. But a problem with the most teams I'm working with is that the CTO actually has a layer in between the team leads, or sometimes
or engineering manager. Yeah.
But the problem there is that the engineering manager and the team leads are very, very often no leadership persons.
I noticed that to be specific to organizations in the DACH region and the sort of German-facing Slovenian companies. In the last year, I have not found that issue anymore in any of the sort of more US-oriented organizations, the smaller ones.
So you mean a flatter power distance index hierarchy?
CTO, CPO, etc., working directly, or staff engineers taking over, filling in for that leadership void.
I like that.
I've not worked with an organization that had an engineering manager in over 3 years. Like, that middle management layer is just missing. It's just absent. Like,
because
in a large company,
seniors are actually doing the action of the team,
or staff engineers, or staff engineers. Yeah, and in very large, and in big tech, of course, Microsoft,
but not with under 20 engineers. It is like, just do your work.
I am working with larger organizations on that as well, but we don't have engineering managers. We have product owners. We have engineers, staff engineers.
More responsible engineers. That is actually the correct term. So we have
in one of the startups I'm working with, we also now started doing this whole initiative of, we want engineers to be more product minded, and we want with AI tools, right? So where engineers are a bit more sort of lacking in maybe statistical ability or product analysis or business analysis ability, they're using AI tools to sort of help themselves teach themselves. And we are incentivizing the managers, the non-engineering side of the company, so salespeople, managers, etc., to use more AI tools to self-serve, basically, so that they can have this sort of self-serve platform, so that rather than asking an engineer, they're using Cloud Code that is hooked up with an MCP to a read replica of the database and a read replica of the project management software, so that they can triage certain issues before they go to an engineer. So it's more of this sort of self-service mentality of we're providing more product self-service to engineers, and we're providing more engineering self-service to the product people. And that's also a way to heal the divide. They just give people more self-service tools. That was all the rage with regards to developer experience when we had the same problem with engineers and DevOps, and there was this sort of like weird divide. And the older one, which is product and engineering. But there's also another one, which is, pre-market fit and post-market fit. And then, do you want to keep the unproductized POCs, or do you want to kill them, or what do you do with those customers? These divides manifest in many different forms throughout the life cycle of a company.
Mhm.
But to come back to that engineering manager topic, yeah, like recently, I've just not worked with a lot of organizations that would have engineering, like non-coding engineering managers. It's been very long, very, very long. Of course, I work with people who have non-coding product managers or project managers or product owners, POs, PMs of various kinds, but engineering manager, not so much. Sometimes the CTO is filling in for that sort of engineering manager spot in smaller organizations. That's fine. But that's not the same thing, right? Like still the same person talking to the team as they should without a middleman. But that middleman effect is rare. Again, except agencies and older organizations in the DACH region, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland.
Well, you often have this team lead idea. This is not really like high level leadership. It is more like the sergeant amongst
More like
soldiers.
sergeant. That is a very good distinction. And people who have been in the military, yeah, like the sergeant's role is to essentially compress communication reliability, so that you can talk to a platoon by addressing its sergeant.
Exactly, and it is a little bit like the most senior IC in the team. It is a little bit like that.
Most experienced, I would say. Yeah, like
Most experienced, yeah. It's most of it the same, right?
well, in military, you would, what would you say? The most experienced person would be the one with the longest deployed tenure, right? And in engineering, it's slightly different. Like engineering skill at some point, beyond a certain level of skill, it is no longer a effect of years served. If right, like beyond a certain level of amount of years, you don't just become automatically staff after 20 years or 15 years or 10 years. Like the more T-shaped or very deep IC understanding
Mm-hmm.
comes from pure interest and grit of having solved difficult problems in real situations, of having thrown yourself into the ring and survived.
Yeah,
But that's
you,
but I wouldn't equate that with seniority. Like genuinely, it is, from my experience at least, the team lead role usually goes to a volunteer, not the most senior person in the team. In my experience.
yeah. It's not really voluntary. It's just like that there is no one else, and you are the only volunteer. So you will be
Yes, yes.
volunteered. It's a
No,
little bit like
but you
that.
know what I mean, right? It's but
Yeah. So there's this idea of you're working on a product, and you work in a company, and the most experienced person is not necessarily the person with more years as engineering experience, but working on that product. So if you have a senior working for 20 years in that company, and another senior working for 30 years in the industry, but only half a year in their team, it is unlikely that the let's say engineer with more overall experience actually is the leading person, because
correct.
the domain knowledge often outperforms the regular knowledge.
That's what I wanted to say. Yes.
Yeah.
So that there's multiple nuances, and you're basically so it's not to diminish your time of service, but as you go deeper in your career, there are multiple facets to time of service. Time of service leading, time of service in this domain, time of service negotiating across companies, time of service within like this political structure in the organization, tenure with the key stakeholders, your ability to communicate, your ability to hold up yourself in difficult situations, your ability to hold up in difficult situations in front of a customer, your ability to be reliable or useful in customer facing conversations on conferences or expos, right? So your Your experience can be valued and expressed many different ways. But usually what really comes down to, let's say, skill is what you do every day. Right? So when it comes to this divide between product and engineering, I always work with organizations from this assumption of we need to work on the product, we need to iterate on the team that builds the product, and we need to iterate on the organization that creates incentives for the team. That is basically modeling the leadership example for the team. And then we have to, when there's like a tough challenge or like a tough financial year, I always go through this process of, hey, if you were to continue this journey, or if you're thinking of closing the company, you're an entrepreneur. And I'm talking to the CEO, right? Whatever is next, would you like to do it with the same organization?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, would you like to build the next product? Would you like to pivot with the same team? And if the answer is yes, then the question is, okay, would you like to do another iteration of the same product or a derivative of the same product? Like, would you like to use some of the intellectual property that we've already harnessed? If the answer is yes, then we have a good basis for improvement,
Mm-hmm.
right? If not, somebody's getting fired, right? And that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to be that candid, right? Because a lot of people don't see this. A lot of people see, oh, the product is crap, we should improve the product. No, maybe the right talented people are working under the wrong conditions. Or the conditions cannot exist because we have the wrong legal framework for the organization. I was solving in a team that I've been working with for over 2 years. We were thinking, like, they kept communicating with me that they have low engagement within the team.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's super solo. It's like, how do we get their interest? How do we get them to work together? But then as I started working with them more closely, I realized that team, that organization specifically, employed everybody through freelancer contracts with hourly rates on a fixed hourly budget, and they were always smaller than full-time employment across multiple time zones. So even though this team has been together for 2+ years and they know each other, they all acted like solo freelancers, right? So it was the topmost level that was the problem,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that, and they were trying to solve it from, hey, why don't they talk to each other? Like, why doesn't front end and back end talk to each other? And why don't they build tests together? Well, I don't know. Are they working in the correct process? Like, is the team a team? Okay, it's not a team. Hey, team, can you be a team? Silence. Hey, team, can you be a team, please? Like, you're a team. Can you put more team into the team, please? We're a team.
But that is definitely a moment where you need to designate someone who is taking the
Exactly.
role in
Exactly.
facilitating that into a team.
And then we said, okay, no more freelancers. The next team lead needs to be a full-time employee, and they need to be the first full-time employee. And then that's problem I had to solve one level higher. And then they were, and I get goosebumps talking about this, because this was like a big aha moment for them. I remember when they had this aha moment. To them, this was a blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
To them, this was so normal that everybody is on freelancer contracts that they never questioned it. It just had to be like that, right? And a lot of organizations, in all organizations, there will be silly things that you never question. We're doing sprints. Why? Well, because we always have. Okay. Is it working? Well, it has to, because we keep doing it. Right? Because
everyone agrees we need to continue doing it.
Do you think we'll be investing so much time if it wasn't working? And I'm like, have you tried not investing? Right? Yeah, and a lot of organizations just have silly things that they don't question, that they take for granted. Or the amount of times that I heard somebody tell me, oh, we tried that, it didn't work for us. As an excuse, as a justification for giving up. on improving their organization, on improving their work conditions, of improving their relationships with the people that they are spending, more than a significant portion of their life with.
Yeah, it is. It is so interesting that the things you see when you're doing the business with the companies you're working with is very much the very same thing than like the people I'm talking with. A little bit nuanced, but I think the very same core is everywhere the same. So no one is really like hating each other there or try to get rid of each other. I don't really see that, especially not in companies you get in contact with as a fellow or something like that, because
Mhm.
there's at least one influential person who is willing to have help from outside.
Yes.
So it's not like it is not a hopeless area. So
They're a step ahead of.
exactly. So there will
Yes.
be a lot of people. This is what you see in mentorings when the mentees, and that is what I've did most in the last 5 years. The typical ICs or team leads, tech leads, engineering managers, CTOs who don't want to talk about that they have this mentoring. It's very private and it's more a seek for help.
Mhm.
And in more than half of these journeys, leaving the company was the solution.
Yeah.
That is the reality, because there are so many bad companies out there you don't really get a glimpse into, because they don't, this is like things, the bad things which happen in that company stays private, and you better go in, don't change things, because change for many companies, it's not all, it's like I don't have a number, no one
Yeah.
really does have, because this is a gray number, actually it's a gray zone. But
Mhm.
I would argue that at least half of the companies I've personally met, my out of my own experience, is not even willing to talk about that and try to
Yeah.
shield it away.
Yeah.
And it is very often a form of protectionism, especially in smaller companies of the CTO CEOs,
I mean, and it's
who
well
try to keep
intended.
the status quo as it is.
And it's well intended. They're also trying people to
Mhm.
save face, and like I also went to like various self-help groups and therapy, and even though I benefited from it, I still feel a bit icky about talking about it publicly, because it feels very private, right? It feels private. It's like, it's none of your business, and I don't even want to talk about it, right? And sometimes working with these organizations, it feels like freaking like couples therapy. That's what it feels like. And we're doing it out in the open where everybody can see, right? And that's really stressful, because that triggers a lot of that sort of tribal existential angst of people will see me fail or they will banish me from the tribe. And this, a lot of engineers that I help, that I work with, that I coach, I don't, early on, when if they are in a toxic environment or a unconstructive environment and they just feel stuck, I don't help them leave that environment. I help them move on.
Yeah.
Because the chances are that they will leave and mentally they are still there. They're still tormenting themselves with, oh, but at my previous, and that was screwed up and that was screwed. I'm glad I left. And then they carry it, they carry that pain with them. And you can see that company leaving a mark in their psyche, in their CV, in their LinkedIn profile, and then they're just jumping ship, repeating that same suffering until they learn something of it or they give up. Right? So
You need to improve.
They need to improve, exactly, and and they cannot move on, accept it, unless they absorb it as some kind of learning, as some kind of lesson, because they can't move on unless they forgive and learn from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive themselves, forgive the people who were toxic to them, or who have, because all they remember is that last period of, I didn't like working there anymore. And if it got really intense, then they carry that with them. And then when it starts reappearing, they start exhibiting like weird behaviors. They start detaching from work. They want to work more solo. They ask for more focus time. They don't want to collaborate anymore. They don't speak up publicly when
That's
feedback-
down spiraling. actually.
downward spiraling. Yes, yes. So they have changed jobs, but they haven't moved on from the situation, and they are now bringing that situation with them.
It is actually a rare thing to find a company where you have a lot of internal mentoring, a lot of good leadership, a lot of high standards, even virtue in culture, these kind of things. That's so rare that it is very unlikely. Most companies, especially tech companies, treat the tech as still as a department. So department by definition is an exchangeable unit. So you don't actually want to have that. You want to have it as part of the business,
right? That's tough because so much of intellectual property in software is coupled to the buzz factor of the original author, of the people who can maintain a software solution most cheaply are the ones who built it. And there's such a high cost of ownership to having short tenures, like a high turnover rate, right? Like it is such an astronomical cost to a business owner to only keep an engineer for a year or 2 years, where they don't really have a future for them, because then all of the decisions that engineer makes, they never get the feedback loop of whether the big architectural decisions paid off and where they didn't and how to improve them, which means that this system just becomes more and more and more expensive to maintain. And the longer the business exists and remains profitable, the more engineers hate working in that environment.
Yeah, and that creates another problem in our engineering society outside of the businesses, that we have less and less engineers who are actually long-term experienced.
Yeah.
So this is the running gag question is, you have 3 times Meng in your tech line and you are 4 years in business. So what went wrong? Tell me.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, great. It's like, oh, God, do you want to tell me about that? What happened, right?
Yeah.
So glad you are actually proud and tough enough to show that tech line. It turned a little bit that people are now leaving companies and saying that after 1 year, you already need to take a look for something. There was a sentiment a year ago even, and I never understood.
Yeah, there was this like hyper
Never.
job skipping incentive to
raise your
when we
salary. That's it.
No, but it's also financially related, because we had the low interest rates hike after a recession during a high inflation period, and it created this perfect storm of engineering salaries going up astronomically. But the only way to lock them in was to change jobs, because an employer wouldn't give you that big of a jump in salary increase. So there was this like influencer stuff, like you saw it everywhere on YouTube and LinkedIn, that engineers should either get promoted or job hop every 12 to 18 months. And that was crazy.
It diluted the entire industry so much and diffused it. So it not diffused, but it became pretty diffused. Diffused. You know what I mean? It's like noisy. It is like you don't really
fragmented.
When we started, or when we became seniors, people were often like 10 years in a company.
Seniors? I'm a junior engineer, Adrian.
What did I say?
I'm a junior engineer.
Okay.
I don't know anything.
It's okay for you. Just be a junior if you like. So I matured in that time a little bit. No, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like you worked for quite a long time. You were the typical, we all knew what legacy systems were, and newer engineers don't know what a legacy system is. They jump from greenfield to greenfield, from company which fails to company which fails.
I can just ask Claude to create a legacy system for me. He's really good at that. Uncle Claude. Uncle Claude is his legacy systems. So it is. I just realized we went an hour without talking about AI, and we deserve some credit for that.
You mentioned AI 1 minute after 1 hour.
Yes. So I just had to.
First hour this year without AI. So let's talk about GPT, ChatGPT 5.4 in coding.
I haven't tried it yet, but I've seen some of my team members praise it as being sort of interface-wise getting closer to Claude. But maybe that's like a weird side quest right now. I just wanted to mention that AI tools are an accelerator. They aren't a problem. So I have seen teams that are divided. A team that I just recently helped, that I'm still coaching, last year this time, they were heavily divided. Heavily.
By AI or not?
Without AI. Heavily divided. Product conversations very far away from engineering conversations, problems from all sides.
Mm-hmm.
Too many managers, fragmented engineers, the perfect storm. While they were divided, any kind of AI usage accelerated the divide.
Mm-hmm.
Once we've decided to work on it, the relationships, the processes, the communication, talks about seniority, talks about salaries, letting people go, hiring differently, hiring new people differently, offering them different perks, different levels, and creating a trend where we have got them closer and then created a process that accelerated how the two departments got to collaborate, so that it's not two departments anymore. It's just two capabilities and there's a lot of collaboration. Now you give AI to this team and it accelerates their collaboration. Right? So a lot of people that I see, I don't know if they're people, maybe they're bots, but I see, it's very easy to only see the negative side of this. Of, yes, in my organization that is toxic, engineers and product are divided, and now the CEO is vibe coding and AI is making everything worse. Yes, but that's only one half of the picture. Some organizations will take this seriously, will want to take this seriously, and once they get on the right trend, so they go from the trend of making it worse to the trend of making it better, then AI can slowly, if used well, of course, slowly help them accelerate. So it's important to see both sides. Like, these are two sides of the same coin, right? So AI is just there in the background, ready to accelerate whatever is there. And the work is still to be done by the people, with the people.
AI especially forces you to prepare upfront and during and after you develop a feature as a company, to share share the knowledge, to share the progress, to share the reviewing progress.
To write it down.
Less in tickets. So I see that with us as well. So we have more and more MD files within the Git repository, which are actually very living context.
Yes.
Instead of having some tickets in some systems.
Yeah.
So everyone is just living in the repository and taking
ASCII diagrams, models compressed down into structured formats.
Because that is a very good test as well. Are you able to condense a very complex topic down to a set of little markup files, like the technical version, like the business version of it? But every developer does have access, including the AI agents have access.
And the skills that build them and to improve them.
That's very important. And every time you have done something with your AI shall update the files.
Yes.
And that helps a lot to somehow suddenly have a new connection you haven't had before, because people were simply too lazy to have these large documents managed by everyone while you were bombarded with small tickets, which were somehow pre-prepared anyway. So the developer said, I don't do this kind of stuff. I just, go into my Jira ticket and make a check,
Yeah.
check, done,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
know.
that said, next ticket, I need to get 3 more tickets done today. This is what I measured for, not by how precise I am working inside one thing. And that brings the people more into the monotasking idea back. So even though it's not 100% monotasking, but the team is now working on a shared context again, in which I really enjoy working in AI environments, because that aspect is much easier to implement, because there is now the advantage, the value of AI is that if I can help make things faster, easier, little easier to observe, to review, takes away. It's good for lazy people. But then you actually need to prepare. And people say that it's worth for me to prepare things because the other parts are more harmful. So I do this instead of this. And so people are forced to do this, and it's okay for them. So it's a compromise, but a compromise in a positive sense. And I think a lot of the AI resistance stems from exactly that people actually don't want to share all this kind of knowledge together in a team, so they can't imagine working together because they all want to have their personal choice of AI, which is working somehow magically in the old way, which is not really working. That's when it doesn't work.
And it creates interesting situations as well. I'm working with a lot of product managers who vibe code with Cloud, right? Who want to be helpful and who
want to be helpful.
Yeah, they want to be helpful. Like, they, instead of applying pressure to the engineers, they're like, well, I have Claude here. Maybe I can build it myself. And I often, and I appreciate that, because then they're willing to sort of, go down to the trenches with the engineers. But I always tell them, look, you don't get any brownie points. If you're going to code, I'm going to treat you like an engineer. Like, I'm not going to treat you like some special engineer who has, like a software pipeline just because you're not an engineer. And that's rough, right? And it often comes into the situation that they have beginner issues that they are used to looking at from an outside perspective, from like project management. Hey, something is stuck. When will that PR be merged? And now they get to experience it, and they get stuck, a little bit shell-shocked, because they never experienced it from this side. And I had this situation a few weeks ago with a PM, not engineering. Well, I mean, data scientist, but not an engineer. PM who coded something up with Claude in the production code base, and then opened up PR and asked for a review. And he got ignored. And I told him, what do you intend to do with the PR? Like, do you intend to merge it? Because it's still his responsibility to merge. The PR is for him to learn something. But him being ignored is already a lesson, but he didn't pick up on. I told him, your PR looks to be ignored. And he's like, yes, I hate that. Why can people review my PR? And I told them, well, because your PR looks like AI slop, and it's your responsibility to make it sexy for people to review easily, right? It's rude of you to just throw somebody a PR and say, here's 2,000 lines of code, please review. And he said, oh, I didn't see it that way. It's like, yes, but that's how it is.
There is only a small percentage of this 2,000 lines of code which is actually worth reviewing at all, right?
Yes.
And you need to spot those.
Hang on. That's exactly what we did. I asked them, what you would do here is you feature flag all of the boring stuff, feature flag and merge it, right? Because it should be caught by a linter or tests. And then there's only a few things that actually require human review, human brain juice. Would you like my help in separating it out? And he was like, yeah. Okay, so please schedule a review on the calendar with the engineer, and we will do them the courtesy of minimizing the review until you meet with them. So we spent an hour splitting the PR, merged the safe stuff, because it was so trivial that it didn't require review, like boilerplate, basically. and then they could focus the review and feature flagged it because it was incomplete without that other thing. And then we added the undo of the feature flag and the crucial critical part that required human review, which was then only 20 lines of code, right? And what surprised me was, now this is hard. This is really hard because it goes from a territory where you can get away with being a basic Git user to having to be quite an advanced Git user, because you need to navigate, okay, there will be conflicts upstream and downstream. I'm basically doing stack diffing and I'm taking stuff out of order. So I better squash the commit. I then also need to move the commit to the new main. I then need to apply it not as a commit, but as changes. And then I do add -p to interactively go line by line or like fragment by fragment and then decide whether it's safe or not safe, safe or not safe. And then all of the safe bits needs to be cohesively safe together so that they're not missing like a middle bit and not having an import. And still run through the pipeline despite it being feature flagged. Like, it's hard because you go from basic usage to advanced usage. Prevention is a lot easier. Just starting with a small PR is a lot easier than building a large one and then having to go through the effort of splitting it. And I grilled them through that. Basically, I didn't hold their hand. I dragged them through the mud just to get it done. And it was quite an experience. And we got it done. And they got it reviewed. And they got it merged the same day. And I was really proud of them. But what surprised me, they went a step beyond. And it was their first time with Coach Dennis teaching them how to split a PR. So they made a Claude scale out of it. And that was surprising to me, you know? Like their first reaction was, okay, this was really tough to learn. I'll probably have to do it again. Rather than taking notes, I'll create a Claude scale. And then next time I'll use the Claude scale, and if I get stuck, I will have made some progress, and then I ask Dennis. Right? And that second part of the just taking the transcript of a coaching call and our work together and the before after of the commits and turning them into a Claude scale, that is next level ingenuity that I see more and more teams do.
But I would have, you know, like I have a little bit, so maybe I understood that wrong, but they have done something which was not ideal. So too
Yes.
large package, and they now
They
have
get
a skill to correct that instead of getting personal skills not to get into the situation.
Correct.
Would be the better thing to do.
Correct. But normally I wouldn't have recommended this process. But if they can, you know, do the large PR and then self-correct with Claude's help, maybe that is something that I've never considered before. Because maybe they can do the large PR first, split it up, and then maybe delete the stuff that is irrelevant. Because I see Brian, for example, Brian Finster and Paul Hammond, they have similar heuristics. They have similar heuristics in their agentic workflows that splits a work tree, and it helps identify inappropriate steps from a LLM, right? So any kind of red-green refactor loop from a TDD cycle would reject parts of the work tree that have modified the tests in the refactor step or in the green step, right? Which is very interesting. So from the red to green, if they would change the test, right? So if the LLM would cheat and they would make all of the tests pass by removing the one that wasn't, right? Because obviously it would see, okay, there's a test, there's no implementation for it, I will remove the test, which is not the intended use case for TDD. The test is there to fail to help you take the next step in implementing. And sometimes they need some very, 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 very stubborn steering. So I see proxies of this in a lot of AI usage of, yeah, if you make a too large step, revert, or here's how you correct the issue, right? If you've been, I've also been following Andrea Lafogia's GitHub project where he has his Claude agents. And he had two interesting ones. One, which is what he called the Farley index, which is, taking Dave Farley's advice on what kind of tests are useful from like a BDD context of understandable, maintainable, focusing on behavior rather than implementation. And he basically created a Claude function, a Claude scale that sort of puts a test under those criteria and produces a score. And another one which does the same process, but it focuses on the cognitive load of a human with regards to the implementation. Right? So the implementation, so the test should have a high Farley index, and the implementation should have very low cognitive load burden. And he did the same thing, right? So he did basically, here's a skill to analyze if you've gone too far, right? So in this PM's example, the too far was PR is too large. And then he has two solutions, either revert or here's how you split it up. And that's also what they were doing with their skills. So when the cognitive load is too high, if the change happened because of our last step, then just undo the step and make a smaller one. Or if it was legacy code, then here's how you address it. We focus on cohesion, we identify cohesive units, and we reduce coupling on units that are not cohesive, usually having to loop in a human to create an abstraction that is meaningful in the domain. And for the cognitive load stuff, it is usually the typical clean code stuff. Too many parameters or confusing terminology, too large files, bumpy road, deep nested complexity. So I'm lacking this trend. Like it got really tactical at some point, but I'm liking the sort of this accelerating factor of like go the wrong way and then correct very fast. If an AI can self-correct, seems to be optimal. For a human, it's not. Like going the wrong direction and then redesigning, rewriting, it would be wasteful.
Yeah, because of the mental overload, the mental waste, and the time you waste.
Yes. And the annoyance and
context switching, because you do that over multiple days, and it's actually an absolute waste of time.
Open the door. BRD.
I actually need to end soon as well. Yeah.
I'm back. Yeah. But this is something I've always been mostly focusing on prevention. Just, if you produce a too large PR, my first reaction is delete. Like any amount of effort, like it's too late, it's too far gone, delete, let's do it again. Or let's extract what is useful and safe and delete the rest. Right? Like that was like my last line of defense on people who seek out help too late. And I'm starting to see that this same advice does not hold up for agentic usage. If an AI produces code in 10 seconds and it's too much, I don't care if it spends a minute correcting itself. Like if the ratio of producing and fixing is 1 to 5, I don't care if it's at the magnitude of seconds. I care for a human because it is at the magnitude of hours. And that's annoying. Like we lose a day by just going the wrong direction, and we could see it on the first step.
It does have negative consequences for the human as well, for the mood. That doesn't all happen to the AI. You just tell the AI, correct that, and it just corrected.
Yeah.
You can even run the coder AI and the reviewing AI in parallel. So it's a little bit like you can't really do that with humans. It's there's nearly no way to even do that synchronously.
Or you can use your brain juice to produce a spec, and then you do the implementation with a reasoning AI.
Exactly.
And then you do the review. Then you do like static analysis, like AI analysis with a fast AI. And then you do that fast AI loop multiple times to like do it through
And
different parts.
with that one, it's very important to have backup credit cards attached to Anthropic. That's
Yes.
extremely important.
Yes, I mean, it does get expensive real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
I mean, it's still like if you're paying a lot of money, like if your engineer costs you 10K per month, the cloud costs, the monthly AI costs, the token costs will not get to that level. But it will
No,
be
but it is all addition. So if you say that so we keep all engineers and every engineer is enhanced, then you basically have per engineer something between $200 and $800.
Yes, that was my experience as well. Which is a problem if you're paying your engineers 2,000 and then they rake up a 1,000 per month bill. That would be a problem because that now costs you 50% of your engineering department.
It's
if you're in a low cost of living area in the world.
Let's say don't get into the financials of companies because it is not 100% logical what happens there.
Yes,
so
yes.
Maybe
I agree.
500 can be a lot per person, right? Accumulated in like 10 people.
Agreed.
And for others, it's like nothing. It's maybe having that for another conversation could be.
But that said, I am worried because these companies will not make these AIs cheaper. That's not happening.
No.
So the cloud costs at best will go up. And they might go up 10% every year, or they might go up 3x. Because that's the same thing that we saw with AWS and GCP. And when AWS did it, GCP stood on the mountain. No, we're still the cheap one. And then everybody went to AWS. GCP is a lot cheaper. They migrated over to GCP. They still remained cheap, but they have really pushed up the premium on egress costs to migrate out of the cloud. And then they made it more expensive. Right? So this sort of monopoly market factors, we can see them in telecoms, we can see them in utilities, we can see them in data centers, we can see them in cloud providers. We will see them in AI providers as well. So cloud might be the first one. Gemini, there will be one that lags behind. Everybody will go over to them, and then they will also go up. And then, either they will start charging more for MCPs, or they will start charging more for rack compatibility, or they will start charging more for telemetry, or they will have per seat charging, which is on a different premium, or they will have better models, and you will only get good output out of the good models, and the battle models will be more expensive per token.
I have worked a lot with RAGs lately. Not only because of my personal knowledge, stuff and connected to the outside world, to outside AIs from other systems. I realized that while I was working with that one, that all the agents start to try to, instead of really going into external racks, they try to provide all this racking themselves. So I think we see more like a clustering of things. So you don't have your single rack as a team, as a company. You will probably go more like your all-inclusive platform system by a provider, and you will get even locked in more than you are right now. So it's more like you keep your open data, but the vector data, the embeddings, they're actually part of the agent. So for example, ChatGPT.
Yeah, it will be cheaper to host it on the AI provider's database rather than across an AWS.
Exactly. So for example, just for personal users, now ChatGPT, everyone is using that. There are projects. Projects is basically a rack supported.
That's a very good example. Yes, very good example.
So you don't need to set up a very complex quadrant server, do something how you actually manage all the hashes, the embedding APIs from OpenAPI. It's very complicated. And they just give you that, and you are locked in with the data of the rec. So you can get the chats, but not the rec data. So no matter where you go, the new AI needs to learn completely new about you, and all the learnings is essentially the vectored version of your open data. And that is the curating part you have done over 1 year is actually lost. And people don't really realize that the LLM alone isn't the kicking thing anymore. So don't just use any like third-party thing. I would personally stay with the large providers, because you will stay there for a while in the future. They won't let you simply get out anymore. And the idea of the autonomous idea, I know that some people are making like, oh, I help you building up your own thing. You can, if you really have the time and the passion to do these kind of things. But in my opinion, that's an old school antique version of passion that actually is more like a vice than a good virtue to do that. It's
And on the topic of vector databases, that brings us to today's sponsor.
Do we have one?
No, I'm just kidding. But we could be sponsored. We could be sponsored by a vector database. Or Claude.
Yeah, actually Claude.
Or Jira.
I'm one of the biggest fanboys of Claude. So I was one of the first people who speak up for Claude on LinkedIn, actually, in our bubble. And people were looking at me. Even the people you mentioned today were looking at me like, oh, this guy is talking about Claude. Oh, blah, blah. So
it's premature. He's playing around. It's like, oh, but this is actually really cool. Yes.
Because I did something in production very early on, and I have an environment where I can do these kind of things without asking anyone. This is the reason why I used it. And I was sitting there like, what the hell is going on here? So what's with my job in 1 year? So actually nothing, because I'm an entrepreneurial person.
We're not sponsored yet.
We are not sponsored yet, but maybe.
But we could be.
There are actually people asking via email from time to time, but what we shall sponsor there is not what I want to be sponsored by.
Okay. Is it CodeRabbit?
No. So many AI solutions.
Oh, I see.
AI
I got contacted by
and these kind of.
I got contacted by CodeRabbit, and I just sent them back a reply that, hey, a lot of teams that I work with have tried CodeRabbit and they weren't happy. So I'll just take that as a sign that you guys.
Theo is happy about CodeRabbit.
Theo is not an authority on anything on the internet. Like
I was just triggering you.
Theo is a washed up.
I don't even know if this was true or not. I know it triggers.
Twitch, whatever. Theo is one of those fake YouTube influencers, just like TechLead.
He was interesting when he did primarily
Tailwind
React
stuff.
and Tailwind next. It was like he was talking about the things he was actually doing, and now he's more like picking random topics from X.
They're not random. He's just talking about stuff he gets sponsored to talk about, which is.
It is more like the actual influencer idea, the social media influencer idea. It's not the thought leader of Next.js anymore. It's now more the influencer. I need to earn money with that.
I liked it when it was Next.js focused. I don't like it that it's just sponsorship after sponsorship.
No matter what my AI for, I use vidIQ for YouTube actually, because I need to rebuild my YouTube. And I actually stacked up, I think, I forgot to cancel it. I stacked up 6,000 credits now. And I'm working it down, but I'm still at 5.8 or something like that. And it tells me that I need to do more Next.js content, because that was the content which was actually working, not your leadership content. So it tries to get me away from leadership content.
Interesting.
So it doesn't find really good. So I'm still doing that, of course, but it is true that if you do something on LinkedIn, and we are on LinkedIn, on YouTube. If you are on YouTube right now, it is very much. There's this entertainment node, so it's not like a Udemy thing where you go for a specific thing. You always are there in the context of entertainment.
So
it works better on weekends actually. So our streams would be working better on Sunday evening.
And I also saw Primeagen and Casey, like the big live coders on YouTube, the people who were sort of coding educationally. They are very entertaining as streamers, just like the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely entertaining.
And they started doing basically educational content, but as like a fun podcast, right? So like the point was to have fun and be entertaining, but also to teach their audience something about tech, or if nothing else, just have a funny fight and or a rant that everybody's sort of passionate about, which is hitting home with regards to our channel. Yeah, but I would say let's wrap on that note, if you don't mind. It's
Yeah.
6:30.
So I realized that I have streamed 2 times today. One time with Kai and with you, and I basically had 0 people on LinkedIn today because LinkedIn is simply broken. And I don't know. I don't see them. It's not announced. It's not. I probably we need to go for events again because it is simply not working at all.
Yeah,
For
but I
the
hate
last,
doing the events because they feel so fake, and we need.
it's not an event actually. It's just a
Yeah,
stream.
yeah. Man. Maybe we should do OpenClaw, and or CloudBot, and just have Claude do it for us, and just
Yeah, and we can have it, use Descript AI creator
and or
videos
Canva or
just
Canva AI,
live
just
videos
put
with
in something
us,
stupid, and
and
yeah,
we can just go away and play computer games or something.
yeah, maybe. But I think if we do that and give Claude access to our LinkedIn's, it will get banned on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if that makes any difference right now regarding impressions. I'm just joking.
I don't know.
Being banned on a current state
LinkedIn
is
is
very
such an annoying platform, honestly. Like, as much as Substack on the way up, as much as we had issues with YouTube and it's on the way up, like LinkedIn is just this constant pile of.
it's constantly not really working.
Yes.
I think especially the streaming thing is like, what the hell is going on there?
Yes.
What's the point about that anymore?
And they moved our analytics again.
They
changed it again.
I don't know. So it's like,
know.
some people get along with it very easy, especially in German content. It seems to work quite well when it comes to vanity metrics because there are so many coaches right now running around. It really like they it's like fungus. They grow everywhere. I don't know. It's the wave we saw in America 3 years ago.
Yes.
We see now in Germany. But it is like it's ultra shallow there. It's like it's not really nice to read that, something like that. And I wanted to write. I think I reposted something yesterday, but I deleted it again. I didn't know if that was right or wrong for me to say, but I was a little bit disappointed about social media in general, especially on LinkedIn, because it is social media. When I don't know. When I started 8 years ago with LinkedIn, there was a lot of CTO talk. There was a lot of deep tech talk. There was a lot of discussions, early discussions with Brian Finster and all these people, right? Where we discussed with random senior engineers of all types of companies about legacy migrations, Strangler-Fig patterns. There were so many discussions going on. And and people tell that they are tired seeing all the people using AI, commenting AI, all the comments look like a wrap-up of the post and these kind of things. It is like people slowly but steady become bored by such a valuable platform. And they still are there. They don't post anything anymore. And it's like the quality drops so much that I think
but you see the echo chamber, Adrian? They're complaining that the influencers are bots, and the influencers are complaining that the viewers are bots. that the impressions are not real.
But it is the reality. It is very strange what's going on. It is absolutely diluted. And no matter to whom I speak, from the people who were successful at the beginning of last year, it's not anymore the case.
That is the same feedback that I hear from Meta, from Facebook. That everybody who is still on Facebook, they complain that most of it is just bots and automated advertising.
Yeah, Twitch the same. There's a huge issue with Twitch right now. So you have a lot of bandwidth is going actually by bots to bot channels because they pay bot networks to do that. And Twitch cannot really basically make a difference anymore. So they need AI to have a difference, but they can't. But because the AI is so good, and it actually destroys the entire ecosystem. No, maybe not destroys. It's like
No, it does destroy it because they're still streaming
the
video.
version we knew from the past. So
Yeah.
it's like, for example, LinkedIn is not like you get valuable insights from other CTOs. I don't read from other CTOs anymore. I
Are you
really
sure
need
that's
to
not
look
just
for
your
it.
feed?
Maybe it's my feed, but
Maybe it's
it's like
Maybe your feed needs a little bit of grooming,
maybe
or maybe you need a feed diet.
maybe
Maybe you need to get off of social media and go to a conference, Adrian. What do you think?
there's a conference. There's CloudFest 2 weeks next week.
Oh, nice.
Next week.
Anyway, that said, we are meeting privately, right? With Brian Finster tomorrow, right?
Right.
It's not the episode tomorrow, right? We are meeting for a.
We are meeting. It was planned, the episode,
Yeah, I
but we
wasn't
haven't
sure
planned
about
anything.
that. Yeah, I wasn't sure because he was also about the schedule or something, and
So when 3 people are not sure, I've just decided to say.
yes, okay. So we're
Better.
just meeting to discuss the next episode because Brian has a lot of new goodies, and then we will be setting up a episode. And if we're wrong, then we'll just go live tomorrow.
Yeah, all about ZMF.
Yes, and his funny scaled what is it? Scaled agile
I
development.
don't even know the name. I can't. I
No,
only can focus
scaled
on ZMF.
agile DevOps maturity framework, right? Like that's the SADMF acronym. I think.
That is the satire thing of
It's
how
satire,
to do
yes.
it wrong
But
precisely.
it's really good satire.
Step by
It's
step,
really good
no break your
satire because
entire
a lot of companies that I work with follow that process.
Yeah,
So-
the point is you could sell that and people would buy that. That is it. Probably it would be better working than continuous delivery. Try to sell someone continuous
Yes, but
delivery.
you know
That's
the
a tip for
difference
you, you know,
between
it's
low
not
performing
never-
organizations and high performing organizations is so large that what Brian created is satire from a high performing perspective, but the gap is so large that the satire is actually reality for a organization that is just struggling with everything, like getting software out, quality issues, design issues, planning issues, budgeting issues, turnover issues, communication issues. But that's a typical organization. A lot of organizations struggle with this, and they can find themselves in what Brian considers satire, which is ironic, which is double the funny, I think, which is why we decided to have an episode with it and agentic continuous delivery. And I hope that tomorrow the 3 of us will meet privately, I
We
think.
do 12 at 12 CET, I think.
And we're not gonna go live, I think.
Can.
We
But
could.
It's like no one would see that on LinkedIn.
No, but
anyway,
if we every now and then Brian wants to talk about something private, and like we need to be sure that we can. And
to be honest, I wouldn't have an issue if we say we meet here in Restream to just get live and see what happens.
let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's
do that. And then we meet twice if that
Shall
happens.
we tell him? Shall we tell him?
No, we don't need to tell
No,
him.
I don't.
No, he can. No, if he's a good fan, he'll be watching this episode. Hey, Brian. And if he's not, he'll know about it tomorrow.
Again, he doesn't know about the episode because of LinkedIn. LinkedIn doesn't announce anything anymore if you don't make an event. Because that was my plan. I was trying to get away from I was convincing you, hey, we need to get rid of the events.
And I agree with you because it is a needless admin burden of coming up with the boring text, and LinkedIn always gets the time zones right, and it has to have.
Yeah, but still, when I stream in the morning, 9:00, and I go with an event, I have up to 20 people there.
No. But maybe it's
right
bots.
now, no one.
But maybe it's bots.
It's not bots. People coming after me, DMing me after the show. It's not bots.
Okay. But I'm happy to conclude the no event experiment, and we go back to events.
Okay. You set up the next one.
Ah, fuck.
No.
That's the problem. That's where that's where we argue the most. It's like, no, we both know it. We need to do it, but nobody likes doing it.
Well, what's the title?
What's the title? What thumbnail do you want? Can
I
you
do-
give me the
Is
thumbnail?
it your
template?
topic? Where's the Notion page?
Yes, and then we have these.
I thought it was
conversations.
yours, but you was on vacation, so we moved it. But we need wait. We still wait.
But I already announced it, but it's the wrong thumbnail. Or it's the wrong time. It's the wrong.
So you have to use the wrong studio. Now we stream it to Gregor
Oh,
Oystershake's channel on
And-
Substack.
Oh my god! Yes, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
There's a
Ah.
yeah. Let's go home.